Quite well, thank you. Earlier today, the Liberal House Leader made a series of allegations about the pace of legislation moving through Parliament that are completely contradicted by the facts. Let's take a look at the Liberal response to bail. This is a weak and watered-down response to a Liberal-made crisis. It was the Liberal Party that brought in the easy bail system. Conservatives were calling for tough, real bail reform that would remove dangerous and repeat offenders from the streets. But we have signaled to the government that we would rather be debating their bill and facilitating its passage than Liberal censorship bills. So we called on the government 19 times in the fall to park their censorship bill, at least temporarily, so that the committee could deal with their response to the bail crisis. Well, the 20th time was the charm. And finally, today, the Liberals adopted the Conservative idea to pause debate on Bill C9 so we could tackle the bail crisis that's going on in this country. Remember, Mark Carney himself said that he could get big projects built at unimaginable speeds if he only had Bill C5. Well, Conservatives allowed him to get C5 earlier in 2025. We are now almost a year into Mark Carney's mandate, and he still hasn't gotten a single major project through the Major Projects Office or even ground broken on a single new project in the national interest. Just because a Liberal MP says it doesn't make it so. Conservatives are doing due diligence, but where there is Liberal legislation that at least does no further harm, we are allowing those bills to proceed. So, as my leader said on the weekend, we are calling on the government to work cooperatively, to respect the mandate that the Canadian people gave them in the last election, and work with us on things that will provide tax relief, that will address the Liberal-caused affordability crisis, that will accelerate the trade deals that were signed by Justin Trudeau. It's important to remember that Mark Carney has not brought before Parliament a single new trade deal. The two bills that are before the House were actually signed by Justin Trudeau. So, again, Conservatives are here willing to work on behalf of Canadians to at least do no further harm with Liberal legislation, and where there are improvements and things that we have been calling for and they have adopted our ideas, of course, we have allowed those bills to pass. So what Steve McKinnon said today was just completely contradicted by the facts, contradicted by reality. Aujourd'hui, le leader du gouvernement à la Chambre a lancé des allégations complètement déconnectées de réalité. C'est le Parti conservateur qui a demandé une réponse à la crise sur la criminalité. Le projet de loi C14, ce n'est pas la meilleure approche, mais il ne pas fait pire la situation. Nous avons demandé 19 fois que le gouvernement suspendu le projet de loi C9 pour concentrer sur C14 leur réponse à la criminalité. Aujourd'hui, après la 20e fois, le gouvernement a finalement accepté la proposition du Parti conservateur. Mon chef, sur le week-end, M. Poilievre, a écrit une lettre au Premier ministre et a dit où les libéraux ont pris des idées conservateurs, c'est évident qu'on va travailler sur ça pour les adopter. Alors, juste parce qu'un libéral dit quelque chose, ça ne veut pas dire que cette chose est vraie. Et je peux répondre à vos questions.
So C9 not being studied at committee, what do you mean that they're putting C9 aside? Can you elaborate?
They've agreed to pause. It means that the committee will now be dealing with C14, which is something that Conservatives have called for 19 times in the fall session. 19 times we said, look, we don't agree on C9, but there are elements of C14 that Conservatives can agree with. So let's, for the good of Canadians, to at least, if Mark Carney says this is the solution, let's at least let it see what happens when it's passed. So the agreement is that we will work on C14 for the next few days to make sure that it can come back to the House.
Allez-vous cesser de faire de l'obstruction parlementaire, par exemple, dans ce comité-là?
Non, c'est le gouvernement qui a décidé d'obstructer leur propre législation. Nous avons signalé depuis, je crois, octobre, qu'on peut adopter le projet de loi C14. Nos idées sont meilleures pour régler la situation, mais on peut dire que c'est faible. C14, c'est une faible réponse à la situation, mais c'est mieux que rien. Et c'est le gouvernement qui a décidé d'obstruer leur propre législation avec le projet de loi.
Quel est, selon vous, le premier projet de loi sur lequel vous pourriez voir une collaboration avec le gouvernement?
Mais nous avons signalé C14, il y a aussi C13, c'est le projet de loi pour le Royaume-Uni d'accéder à la TPP, l'accord de commerce international, et nous avons signalé qu'on peut travailler sur ça aussi. Et il y a quelques autres, c'est dans la lettre de mon chef au Premier ministre.
The GST top-up, can we get your response to that? Will the Conservatives be supporting it?
Well, first, I should start off by saying that Justin Trudeau tried the exact same thing just a few years ago, and it did not result in lower grocery prices. And remember, Mark Carney himself said that he should be judged on the prices at the grocery store. Today's announcement is a recycled Trudeau-era policy. It will not permanently provide relief. It is a temporary measure. I believe it won't even cover one trip to the grocery store for an average working family. But, you know, they continue to make the problem worse with their inflationary deficits, their hidden taxes on farming, like the industrial carbon tax that increases farm equipment and fertilizer. Conservatives have always, we'll always support measures that provide relief, even if it is temporary. But we renew our calls to tackle inflation by ending the inflationary deficits, removing the hidden Liberal taxes on fuel, farm equipment, like the fuel standards tax that is already adding 7 cents a litre. That's set to rise to 17 cents a litre. So there are measures that we could adopt today, that the government could adopt today, that would permanently reduce food prices, not just a temporary fix, not just a temporary proposal that won't even cover one trip to the grocery store. I think we have time for...
Preparing for a spring election at this point?
Oh, look, we respect the mandate that the Canadians made in the last election. We've signaled areas where we can work together. We've signaled areas where Liberals have adopted conservative ideas, or at least paid lip service to those proposals, that we will work to ensure their passage. So that's all I have to say on that.
What do you make of Mr. McKinnon saying you should just get out of the way?
GST top-up?
As long as they don't do what they've done in the past and add other elements to that, if they bring forward a simple bill that just does exactly what they said today, Conservatives will never stand in the way of relief for Canadians. We are the party of tax cuts. We are the party of tax relief. We are the party that always looks for ways to put more money back in the pockets of Canadians. What we're saying on this particular measure is Trudeau tried it. It didn't work. Mark Carney is trying to recycle a Trudeau-era policy by giving Canadians their own money back. The better approach is to permanently remove Liberal taxes on food production and end the inflationary practices that this Liberal government has enacted for the past 10 years. Alors, en français, le Parti conservateur, nous sommes le parti qui sont les champions pour les contribuables. Si le gouvernement n'a pas caché quelque chose, comme il l'a fait souvent, on peut appuyer cette mesure, mais ce n'est pas la meilleure approche. La meilleure approche, c'est d'annuler en une basis permanente les taxes cachées libérales, comme le taxe carbone industriel qui augmente le prix pour l'équipement pour les producteurs, comme le taxe sur l'essence, en anglais le fuel standards tax, ça ajoute 7 sous per litre et va augmenter à 17 sous per litre. Alors, notre approche, c'est de baser les prix des épiceries dans une manière permanente, pas temporaire comme le gouvernement a fait aujourd'hui. Et je vais souligner encore, c'est la même chose que Justin Trudeau a essayé et n'a pas fonctionné.
Carney, questions about Trump boring. What do you make of that?
Bonjour. Je suis content de vous voir. Moi, je voulais juste faire quelques commentaires. Hier après-midi, j'ai eu une longue discussion avec l'ambassadeur Greer aux États-Unis, une discussion cordiale, très productive. Comme vous savez très bien, le premier ministre l'a dit dimanche, en vertu de l'ACUM, les 3 pays, le Canada, le Mexique et les États-Unis, se sont engagés à ne pas avancer une entente de libre-échange avec un pays qui n'a pas d'économie de marché. C'est un engagement que nous avons donné à nos partenaires de l'ACUM, le Mexique et les États-Unis, il y a 6 ans. Nous avons pleinement l'intention de continuer à respecter cet engagement. C'était un peu le contexte de ma discussion avec l'ambassadeur Greer, qui comprend très bien que nous avons avec la Chine eu un accord très ciblé sur quelques secteurs de l'économie, un peu pour diminuer des tarifs douaniers qui se sont ajoutés au cours des dernières années. C'est des échanges comme d'autres pays, y compris les États-Unis, dans le cas de leurs fermiers de soie, ont entendu avec la Chine. C'était la conversation avec l'ambassadeur Greer. Aussi, en même temps, nous avons discuté les prochaines semaines et la révision de l'ACUM. On s'est engagé à se parler au cours des prochains jours de nouveau. Nos fonctionnaires sont déjà au travail en ce qui a trait à la révision de l'ACUM. Et Jamieson Greer et moi, nous sommes d'accord qu'au cours des quelques prochaines semaines, j'irai le rencontrer à Washington. So just quickly in English, yesterday I had a cordial, lengthy conversation with U.S. Trade Representative Ambassador Jamieson Greer. We had an opportunity to discuss the commitment that Canada made in the CUSMA agreement 6 years ago, as did Mexico and as did the United States, not to enter into free trade discussions with countries that do not have a market economy. That was a commitment that Canada made to our free trade partners, the United States and Mexico, 6 years ago. I reiterated that remains our position. That is not at all the context of the recent visit to China. I reiterated that to Ambassador Greer, who understood very well that we have a narrow trade arrangement that deals principally with a few sectors of our economy that had seen tariffs on both sides in the last couple of years, not dissimilar to what the United States administration did with China in the soy context last fall. And finally, Ambassador Greer and I spoke about the work that we want to do over the coming weeks in terms of the CUSMA review. Our officials are already at work on the CUSMA review. We've had extensive consultations in Canada with Canadian industry and labour leaders. And Ambassador Greer and I discussed the opportunity to get together probably over the next few weeks and talk again later this week in the context of the CUSMA review.
Est-ce qu'il faut voir tous les tweets et les messages de Donald Trump comme une stratégie en vue de la révision de la CUSMA? Est-ce que c'est une façon pour lui, finalement, de vous tordre le bras un peu?
Moi, j'ai longtemps passé et oublié l'idée que je devrais me questionner sur les stratégies de l'administration américaine ou pourquoi le président américain fait ou fait pas quelque chose. Nous avons décidé de ne pas réagir au quotidien aux déclarations de l'administration américaine, leurs secrétaires qui sont souvent au réseau américain. C'est pas très utile pour nous de réagir comme ça. Pour nous, qu'est-ce qui est utile, c'est d'avoir une discussion cohérente avec nos partenaires, le Mexique et les États-Unis, pour la révision de la CUSMA. Ça va très bien avec le Mexique, j'y vais encore dans quelques semaines, mais j'étais rassuré par ma conversation avec l'ambassadeur Greer sur le besoin partagé d'avoir une discussion assez habituelle, assez focusée sur les choses qu'on souhaite améliorer dans la CUSMA. Et j'ai bien confiance qu'on va poursuivre cette conversation ensemble au cours des prochaines semaines.
Did you get any assurance based on that conversation that Trump will not move ahead with 100% tariffs on Canada?
The assurance that we got is that senior officials in the United States administration, including Ambassador Greer, who's a cabinet-level appointment responsible for international trade, understands clearly that the commitment we made, and Mexico and the United States made, around not having a free trade a negotiation with a non-market economy, Canada's commitment remains. We discussed in detail what the arrangement with China in terms of tariffs on canola, on seafood, and a limited number of electric vehicles with a hard cap coming into Canada. That was the conversation. I was reassured that Ambassador Greer understood very clearly what the agreement is and what it's not. He and I talked about other examples of those bilateral arrangements. And then, again, what was reassuring is his clear desire to work with us and Mexico in terms of a review of CUSMA. And we agreed to chat later this week and to get together in the next few weeks.
How long do you think this review is going to last? The review, and then also how long do you think the USMCA negotiation is going to last?
Well, they're sort of the same thing because it's a review, not a renegotiation. It's not 6 years ago. We talked about that. This is a review. It was built into the agreement. It's not a renegotiation as the renegotiation of NAFTA was over 2 years. It's a much different context. I indicated to him that Canada was ready to engage in those detailed conversations around the review very quickly. The United States and Mexico will make their own decisions in terms of timeline. It will depend on the scope of what the three partners want to do in terms of improvements to the agreement. I don't pretend to be an expert in the U.S. legislative process. I'll leave that to Ambassador Greer and others because that may influence the timeline. I expressed to him our desire to move quickly, that we were ready to move quickly, and he didn't have a reaction to that makes me think he might not even share that view himself. Merci beaucoup.
Bonjour tout le monde, Alexandre Boulerice, député de Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Juste un petit mot pour dire, c'est la rentrée parlementaire. On est content de vous revoir. On a beaucoup de travail à faire. On vit dans des temps qui sont troubles, incertains, imprévisibles. Les gens sont inquiets, une certaine angoisse qui existe au sein de la population, puis les gens en souffrent aussi. Les gens ont de la difficulté à se nourrir, c'est la difficulté à se loger. Et on est ici pour travailler, pour améliorer la qualité de vie des citoyens et des citoyennes qu'on représente, des Québécois puis des Canadiens. Alors, on a beaucoup de pain sur la planche. On espère que le gouvernement libéral de M. Carney va être ouvert à travailler avec les partis d'opposition, lui rappeler qu'il est un gouvernement minoritaire et qu'on doit se parler pour essayer de trouver des solutions. Parce que là, des slogans puis des discours, c'est bien beau, mais on veut des résultats. On veut des solutions, puis les gens veulent voir du vrai changement. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'on est là, puis moi et mes collègues du NPD, on va être là pour travailler dans l'intérêt du bien commun puis de la population en général.
L'annonce aujourd'hui sur le crédit de TPS, vous êtes prêt à appuyer ça?
C'est quelque chose qu'on avait déjà proposé. Alors, ça serait un petit peu bizarre de dire que c'est pas une bonne idée, vu que c'était une idée néo-démocrate au départ. C'est un pas dans la bonne direction, mais ça ne sera pas suffisant. C'est une petite mesure, mais qui ne va pas être capable de faire en sorte que les gens vont être capables de s'acheter une maison ou de se payer le loyer ou une augmentation de loyer ou même une épicerie convenable pour une famille. Donc, c'est un pas dans la bonne direction, mais on a besoin d'un plan qui est plus ambitieux que ça.
C'est mieux que rien, mais vous dites oui, vous l'appuieriez.
Bon, on est prêt à regarder ça, puis on pense que ça va aider les gens concrètement parce que c'est ciblé, puis ça va aider les gens qui sont le plus dans la misère, sont plus dans le trouble. Donc ça, pour nous, évidemment, c'est une bonne mesure. Mais on a besoin d'un plan de logement, de sortie de crise du logement. Comment ça se fait que des jeunes qui sont diplômés, qui ont 25 ans, qui ont 30 ans, ne sont pas capables de se payer un loyer, ne sont pas capables de penser même s'acheter une maison? Ça crée énormément de stress et d'inquiétude, puis c'est beaucoup ça qu'on entend.
What do you make of Carney's speech in Quebec City? What do you make of Carney's speech in Quebec City? Is he rewriting history?
A little bit, yes. Yeah, I think it's a little bit insulting for a lot of Quebecers. But, you know, I don't want to pass all my day to talk about that because, you know, what happened 250 years ago is quite important. We can have a discussion about it. But I'm really worried about the fact that the young people have no jobs, they cannot buy a house, and they cannot pay their own grocery. That's the problems of today.
Président, vous trouvez que c'était insultant? Est-ce que M. Carney devrait s'excuser par rapport à son discours sur les plaines d'Abraham?
Moi, je pense qu'il devrait s'excuser parce qu'il s'est mis les pieds dans les plats et c'est une réinterprétation de l'histoire qui n'a aucun sens pour la très, très grande majorité des Québécois et des Québécoises.
President Trump is threatening 100% tariff. He's called the Prime Minister a governor. He's rescinded his Board of Peace invitation to Mr. Carney. What do you make of all of that and how the government's responding or the Prime Minister's responding?
You know, I think that finally Mr. Carney now understands Mr. Trump. You know, it took him a couple of months because you have to stand up against bullies. We said that first day, the NDP, and you cannot appease him. It's not going to work. And what we can see of what European Union and Europe did about Greenland, it shows you that when you stand up against the bully, he will back.
How worried are you?
So what do you think? How do you think the government's handling it now, though? Do you think they're doing?
I think it's important to have diversify our economy and our exportations with partners that are, that you can trust. That's the problem with Mr. Trump. You cannot trust him. And, every day he will change his mind, sometimes a few times during a day. So I think it's important to go to Europe, but also to go to South America, to go to Africa, to, have partners that we can trust in the future.
Mr. Carney suggested he's not planning an election this spring. Do you believe him?
Oh, when you increase the tax credit for the GST, it looks like you want to send money to the people. So maybe he's thinking about it. But yeah, you have to ask him.
The GST announcement is giving us CASA flashbacks. Obviously, this feels like a recycled measure from when Singh teamed up with Trudeau. What do you think of today's announcement, and will the NDP support it?
I think it's a step in the right direction. We proposed that a few months and few years ago because it's targeting people who are suffering the most. But that's not enough. People need more help than that with good unionized job to pay the grocery and to buy houses. And so we need a much more bigger plan than this.
What's the fight continuing between Canada and the U.S.?
Électoraliste.
Right. On a déjà vu ça dans le passé, distribuer des chèques, ça fait un petit peu préparation électorale pour dire aux gens, regardez, je vous ai donné un petit bonbon, mais je pense que les gens ne sont pas dupes, puis je pense que ça ne sera pas suffisant non plus pour acheter le vote des gens. Enfin, j'espère.
How worried about members of your caucus crossing to the Liberals?
Worried?
Are you worried about
No,
members
not
of your
at all.
caucus? Not
No,
at all?
not at all.
We've heard from some before that they've been thinking about it. Is that not a concern
No,
this spring?
not a concern. Not at all.
Are you worried about the potential continued impact on auto, steel, and aluminum jobs with just the current state of things being what they are between Canada and the U.S. and especially with CUSMA coming up? Do you think there's a chance for a resolution?
It's really rough times, and I want to see the strategy of the Liberal government to renegotiate this free trade agreement with the United States because right now it's already tough. But 85% of our economy is protected by this deal. When this deal is gone, we might have much more problems. And I don't know what the Liberals want to do about this.
The Conservatives say C9 is being put aside to study different bills. What do you make of this?
If they want any kind of support in committees, I will be happy to regain the official status of the party in the House of Commons, and we can work there.
Able to talk about a good chunk of your caucus getting stuck in Nunavut over the weekend and being unable to be here today because of that?
That's Canada. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Bonne journée.
Can you share a little more about how the GST top-up will help? Can you share how the GST top-up will help Canadians? How is this the best measure to tackle affordability?
Well, I can assure you, if you walk with me outside, what's top of mind for Canadians. It's grocery prices. It's the essential. This is a reality for families across the nation every week, every other day, and I think this is going to be going down as one of the key measures, to tackle food affordability, trying to help people at the time they need. They understand our vision, towards 2030, we're going to grow our economy. We have a big plan. You've seen that in the budget with generational investments. But what we heard is that people said, we need a boost now and a bridge. So the boost is to say, we heard you. We heard families, we heard seniors, we heard young people across the country say, give us a hand now. And this is truly Canadian. It's in line with our values. Whilst our economy will grow because the investments that we have put in the budget and coming out of our mission in Asia, in Europe, in the Middle East, we are very confident that we're going to grow our economy. Actually, we have the second fastest growing economy in the G7. But all being said, we needed to do something for people, and this is the type of support people needed now. So we'll see.
Les résultats, justement, souvenez-vous, quand vous avez rencontré les géants de l'épicerie pour faire baisser les prix, mais qu'on soit encore aujourd'hui obligé de mettre des pansements pour aider les gens à faire face au coût de l'épicerie. C'est un échec, ces travaux-là.
Ouais, c'est beaucoup plus large que ça, parce que vous savez, ce qu'on fait maintenant, ce bénéfice-là, les gens vont avoir plus d'argent dans leur poche. Alors, les gens pourront choisir comment ils décident de faire avec l'argent qu'ils auront dans leur poche. L'important, c'était de laisser plus d'argent dans les poches des gens, parce que vous savez, ce crédit-là fait une grande différence dans dans le budget familial de plusieurs familles. Vous parlez d'une famille avec 2 enfants. Cette année, les gens vont recevoir environ 1 890 $. Alors, c'est très, très significatif. Et en même temps, bien, on prend des mesures structurelles. Vous savez, moi, j'ai parlé à l'UPA au Québec où on parlait de prendre des mesures plus structurelles pour faciliter, par exemple, l'abattage chez nous. On parle aussi des serres. On doit produire plus de fruits et légumes pendant l'hiver chez nous. Alors, toutes ces mesures-là ensemble, des mesures temporelles, mais aussi des mesures pour aider l'industrie. On parlait de sécurité alimentaire. Je pense que c'est quelque chose, ça, qui touche les Québécois et les Québécoises. C'est quand on dit on veut avoir plus de sécurité alimentaire. On fait les deux. On aide les gens à court terme, mais en même temps, on se donne les moyens d'être plus résilients au niveau de la sécurité alimentaire.
Sur le budget fédéral, est-ce qu'on a les moyens? C'est 3 milliards cette année. Quand même beaucoup d'argent.
Dans quelques minutes, je vais être en période des questions.
Que vous entendre sur l'annonce de ce matin pour la TPS, les crédits de TPS. Est-ce que c'est une bonne solution? Est-ce que c'est une preuve que les manœuvres du gouvernement pour essayer de contrer l'inflation, ça ne marche pas tellement? Vous en pensez quoi?
Bien, nous, au NPD, on a toujours dit que cette mesure-là de crédit d'impôt TPS était un bon premier pas, parce que ça cible les personnes qui en ont le plus besoin. En même temps, ça ne va pas régler tous les problèmes. On vit dans des temps très incertains, les gens perdent leur emploi, ont de la misère à payer leur loyer, leur hypothèque, de la misère à manger, à payer l'épicerie. C'est un bon début, mais ça va en prendre pas mal plus que ça.
Êtes-vous préoccupé de voir la détérioration des relations entre M. Carney et M. Trump, qui l'appelle maintenant gouverneur? Est-ce que ça vous préoccupe pour l'entente peut-être de libre-échange qui va être réalisée cette année?
Mais en même temps, nous autres, au NPD, on a toujours dit qu'il fallait se tenir debout devant les gens qui sont des intimidateurs. Puis ce qu'on voit avec l'exemple du Groenland, c'est quand les Européens sont tenus debout, M. Trump y a reculé. Donc, je pense qu'il y a une bonne leçon à avoir là-dedans. Je pense que M. Carney a fini par comprendre. Ça faisait longtemps qu'on y disait, par exemple.
What does the NDP think about the GST top-ups that were announced today?
It's a good start. You know, it's a target measure that help the people that are really, you know, in a bad situation, that cannot pay the grocery, but it's not going to be enough. We need a real house strategy in this country, you know, affordable housing and also a good unionized job. That's a good start, but that's not enough.
Well, are you going to support any legislative measures to get this through then?
We'll see. You know, I need to see the measures and the bills and what is going on. So we'll see. We'll study that.
Est-ce que selon vous, la bataille des plaines, c'est le début d'un partenariat?
Il y a pas mal plus de monde qui me parle de leur problème de payer leur loyer que l'interprétation de la bataille des plaines d'Abraham. Mais je pense que M. Carney s'est mis un pied dans la bouche.
The GST top-up, do you think it's the right approach to help Canadians?
2 minutes, but yeah, I think anything that can help Canadians deal with the cost of living right now is going to go a long way. There are thousands of people in my constituency of Winnipeg South Centre who will benefit from this. I think when taken in addition to a variety of other affordability measures that we've undertaken as a government, it's a very strong show of support for people during a time of need.
The NDP have said it's a good start but doesn't go far enough. Do you think that there's anything else that your
I'm
government...
not surprised that the NDP disagrees with measures that the federal government's undertaking. Okay, thank you.
Grocery rebates, what do you think? The government's bringing out some grocery rebates, money for lower income Canadians to help afford costs.
I saw that.
What do you think?
Shortly after the budget, it's interesting to kind of keep flying by your seat of pants in the budget, these things. Canadians do need some more relief on this kind of stuff, and there is no doubt the cost of living has gone up, especially with groceries. Let's accept it. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And it's just causing more pain going forward here. So how do you address the inflation issue first and foremost when you're spending more money and causing more inflation? So it is a bit of a circle he's on. Do note that the grocery rebate was set to expand by about 15% before his announcement, so 15 to 25 over the next handful of years is something, but I don't think it addresses a lot of the inflation concerns Canadians are going to continue to have.
But for lower income people in Calgary Centre, they'd appreciate some money showing up
Like
in
I
their pocket.
say, you take a look at the actual announcements from 15% to 25%. So there is some upside there, no doubt about it. And we have to make sure that people can eat. Eating is one of the things that people have to do first and foremost. Think about inflation. The first thing you're going to feel is the press on your household budget. So you've got to make sure you take care of that and people have the ability to pay for their groceries for them and their family. Step one.
But your concern is how they're going about it, how they're paying for it. I'm not trying to sound you out here.
Well, you know, the issue about inflation is it's caused by the government's fiscal policies at this point in time. So if you're going to make more fiscal policies that cause more inflation, you're you're going to have to keep going back and doing the same thing again and again and again. So you're in a vicious circle here in some respects.
What are your thoughts on McKinnon saying that Conservatives need to get out of the way this parliamentary session?
Sorry, who said that?
Minister McKinnon.
Mr. McKinnon says Conservative need to get it. Well, Mr. McKinnon might think that the opposition, His Majesty's official opposition, has no role in the House of Commons, but indeed we do. And our job here is to make sure we get better legislation for all Canadians. That's our job. We'll continue to do that job. That is something that Canadians elected us to do, and we hope to do it very productively and very effectively. Thank you.
The final question I got for you is, I believe you're leading the Conservative Party economic policy.
Growth Council. That's
exactly. Right. So will you be making a presentation at the convention on
Yes,
on the
I will
weekend?
be. I'll be making a presentation to my caucus, and we actually have a presentation in front of the delegates again on the Saturday. So with my caucus on Friday morning, I'm actually presenting to my council later this afternoon. There's 38 business people across Canada, and we have some direction on this. We finished up the road show. We've been all the way across Canada and a number of cities. We've got a lot of input from business people across the country about what's not working in Canada and what we can do to make it work better.
So we'll hear all about that at the convention, or is there a sneak peek that you can give us?
You'll hear about it at the convention, like everybody else. But thank you very much.
Great.
Good talking to
you. Thank you for stopping.
I'm sorry?
Oh, able to respond to Minister McKinnon saying the House can work, but the Conservatives just need to get out of the way.
Get out of the way. We're here to represent our constituents. We're also elected. We're going to make Parliament work because that's our job.
Do you think the GST top-up is the right approach to help Canadians? Mr. McKinnon saying the Conservatives need to get out of the way.
Does he not want a democracy? That's a confusing statement. Maybe he should spend a little more time working on his file as Transport Minister, and maybe we'll go somewhere together.
Tell us a bit about just what happened in Justice Committee today with C9.
So the Justice Committee was on clause by clause with C9. The Conservatives were filibustering. We had the letter from Mr. Poilievre, who committed to work with us to get these bills passed. So we agreed to do 3 meetings on the bail reform bill and to finish clause by clause within the 3 meetings, so by next Wednesday, and then return to clause by clause on C9, so which is the Combating Hate Act. And they're both important to get passed. And I'm looking forward to this being the end of the filibuster, getting first the bail reform bill through, and then the Combating Hate Act through and back to the House.
Perfect. So yeah, 3 meetings on the bail
Reform Act, and then back to C9 immediately on clause by clause.
And then where does this leave C16 at this point?
Well, C16 is before the House. It hasn't even been referred to the Justice Committee yet.
Perfect. Thanks for stopping.
No problem. Take care. Have a good one.
Happy demonstration in Pima Chicken Mac. There was CAS special troops that were sent there to help out the situation.
Absolutely, and as you know, the armed forces were called out, and we sent logistical help through the Canadian Armed Forces to help the nation with respect to the water treatment and also the sewage treatment plants. Indigenous Services Canada is also working very, very closely with the community, and I've been in touch with the chief and other members of the nation over the past couple of weeks. So, you know, I think we've got things for the most part under control in that community, and I'll be having another discussion with Chief Manias tomorrow.
Do you know if any members of the committee have returned yet, or is it still not good for them to come back to this community?
It's my understanding that there are some members of the community that are en route to returning, and I think once I speak to the chief tomorrow, I'll be able to give you a better update. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming back.
Any legislation for social media for children?
Don't have much to share with you right now. Obviously the objective of a new Online Harms Act would be to protect kids, first and foremost. We've heard time and time again about everything that's going on online. Also, there's a legitimate concern of the state protecting freedom of expression, and that is also key. So there's a balancing act, but I don't have I don't have anything additional to add.
Is that something being considered at all? Any bans for social media for children under 14?
I'm not going to speculate any further. We haven't landed on anything yet. There's no one single simple fix or one simple instrument that'll deal with everything effectively. It has to be a combination of things that make sense and properly administered. So it is a balancing act, but I think largely there are large swaths of society that want to see principally their kids protected, but also people that are more subject to it, including women, racialized minorities, people that are a little more vulnerable. So that's the reality, and it's something we have to deal with.
Do you have any more kind of details on a timeline for legislation?
Thank you.
Arctic sovereignty. ITK question not a bit, so the Prime Minister has not talked to him about Arctic sovereignty since the Greenland threats. Are you concerned that there's no been any communication between government?
My understanding is that they're meeting with the first Premier's meeting next week, so those conversations are actually ongoing. So we're looking forward to meeting and celebrating Nunavut Day tomorrow and meeting with Premier Maine. So.
Have you heard any concerns about Arctic sovereignty given the Greenland threats?
Sorry.
About Chinese EVs coming to the market.
Yeah.
Concerned about the national security concerns. Some people have called them spy cars. In 2024, the government had a stance not to bring them in for national security concerns.
Listen, the discussions that the Canadian team had in China was really to do what you would find other G7 countries have been doing, in the sense that they find a way to have some form of engagement with China with eyes wide open. And I would say in that sense, Canada is no different. You know, if you look at our European partners, if you look at our G7 partners, everyone has found a way to engage with China, but with eyes wide open. And I think that's why the Prime Minister has been clear that on one end, there'd be a reduction in some of the tariffs that were applicable, but there will be guardrails, there would be review, and there would be a number of covenants around that to ensure, obviously, that this is beneficial for Canadian consumer, for Canadian industry, and being mindful of what our other G7 partners are doing around the world.
So, like, beneficial, like, in a sense, like, also security concerns are part of those guardrails?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you're looking at any investments, they are still subject to the Invest in Canada Act. There's many ways in order to ensure that we have the proper guardrails in place, the proper safeguards in place. But like I said, in the world we live today, all our G7 partners have found a way to engage with China with eyes wide open, and we're no different. So we're going to follow best practice, and we're going to engage, put the guardrails that we need, have the processes in place that ensure that it's to the benefit of Canada.
Are you looking to eventually have Chinese plants in Canada? Like, are you looking to eventually have Chinese plants, EV plants here?